Hey everyone, it's Todd Bookspan, the founder of Win by Noon, and I am super excited for my encore presentation of your business plan 2022. I actually have a lot of you who were repeating who took it last week, so that's awesome. And for those of you who weren't here last week, we had a little technical malfunction. I actually had to do it off of my cell phone, so therefore I wasn't able to share my slides. So the reason I decided to do it again was so that I could give people the experience of doing it that way versus last week where I actually walked people through holding up the tool and pointing things out. So we're going to go old school PowerPoint style. You'll see me up in the corner as we go. Maybe I'll turn it off every once in a while and it stare at you to prove a point, or I shouldn't say to prove a point, to push a point. But just know, other than life planning, which I taught yesterday for the first time in a really long time, which was a blast. This is my favorite class to teach. I've taught this for years. So let me just jump on. I'll show my PowerPoint. I'll kind of run through it and just know that if you have questions, chat is alive and you can ask me questions in chat and we'll just kind of crank through. So I think most of you know I'm Todd Bookspan, the founder of Win by Noon, but I think what a lot of you don't know is that, being in, from a kind of long-term of me in business planning. So I went to a college at the beautiful University of Arizona in Tucson, bear down if you're a Wildcat. And there I actually took an entrepreneurship program where we spent a full year, 12 months writing a business plan. It was pretty thick, right? We're not talking about a thick business plan like that. This is just a really simple, business plan. And we spent a full year. We started in the summer researching it, and we were, we had just amazing people come in and talk to us. Number two guy at Harley Davidson, the founder of Discount Tire, the guy who, was top at what was America West Airlines, then became, is now part of American, and just some, amazing people. And then we had a business plan competition at the end. So I originally learned how to write a super, super in-depth business plan. And so when I got in the mortgage business, what I really found was that business planning was my opportunity to partner with my real estate partners. And so I know on here, we've got lots of you who are realtors. I got loan officers. I got a couple of financial advisors on here that I know for sure. And I'm going to make this relevant for all of you. And then actually, I'll go to my plan slide. I'll talk about that in a second. Okay. Well, actually, I'll jump in there now. Now that I totally threw myself off by getting ahead. This is the problem with slides. Like me, I just like to talk. So the slides make it so that I'm like, wait a second, I got ahead of my slides, but that's all right. I'll catch us back up. So we are, so here's the business planning tool. Some of you, when you go here, the email that sends back to you, that gives you the link to download it, goes into your spam. So if that's the case, just go ahead and reach out to me and Todd at winbynoon.com, and I'll send you the direct link. But you can get it from here. This is where the tool is. And if I was really smart, I would have picked my tool up, but it's in this stack of papers on my floor. So I need to pull it. I need to pull it out, but I don't really need to show it to you, but that's okay. I'm just laughing because it's just my kind of the way that I jumped off the cliff this morning and got busy. So but that'll be the tool. So let's get that piece going. All right, there's the email address if you have troubles. All right, so today's plan is why plan. We'll go through the business planning tool. We're going to go through the ideal week, and I'll talk about why later. And then the bonus is to help others. So for those of you who are real estate team leaders, those of you who are mortgage branch managers, mortgage team leaders, or a mortgage loan officer who wants to work with a real estate agent, I'm going to walk you through, which is what I was saying before, what I did for almost 20 years in my mortgage career, which was teach business planning every year to my real estate agents. I would go into real estate companies. I would go into title companies would bring me in, and I would teach this to rooms 50 to 100 people at a time on how to do this. What I would call pretty basic, but super important business plan for 2022. And then I used it to follow up with them and build relationship. And that's a lot of how I built my business. And it's just super passionate about. That's why I love it so much. One is it helped me really grow business, but more importantly, it really helped me do business myself. And I think the fact that I hired a coach early on in my career, and the fact that a coach who held me accountable by business plan, but a business plan doesn't really help you unless you take it and put it into action. So that's why we're going to talk about the ideal week. Yep, I got Larry telling me he didn't get his show up anywhere. All right, Larry, just shoot me that email and then I will reply back with the other link. I get this question a lot. Do I have to be a Win by Noon user to use the business planning tool? Heck, no, you don't. This business planning tool is for anybody. There's just one section, which you'll see, where it talks about planning for next year, your activity part of it, right? Most people plan results and we want to plan, we want to commit to activities. And so certainly you can commit to these activities without being a win by noon user. You can skip that section altogether, but I think it's a mistake. Or you can eventually just get win by noon. But certainly that's the business planning tool has been downloaded, tens of thousands of times. And I think it probably has gotten us a lot of users who go, this kind of makes sense. Maybe I should use this win by noon thing to track these activities. So I always start off with this idea of why plan. And I think the why plan is important. And, if I had my druthers, I would teach this with me on full screen video so you could see me looking at you in the eyes and really trying to rub this into you. And the reason that you always start off, if you understand the whole idea of framing and a process is I've got to get you to realize this is important. Now, I know you're here taking an hour out of your day to learn, so you must think it's important. However, I need to actually I say, poke you in the side, run a little salt in the wound so that you kind of understand. Because basically I want you to do it. I mean, that's the thing. We all know this definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. We've all been there, right? There's some of you who've been in real estate for 15 years, and it's kind of like you've lived your first year over 15 times. There's some of you in the mortgage business who are feeling the same way. And ultimately, I want to get you guys to do something different. And the statistic that always blows me away is that 94% of people arrive at their office with no plan. Now, if you're working at your home office, transparently, that's where I am today. It just looks like I'm in my fancy office. We wake up, we roll out of bed, and we roll into our home office without a plan. And as a result, 91% have inconsistent month-over-month results. And this is across all levels, all sales. This specific study was of loan officers in particular. But we see that, right? I mean, there's 3% who get lucky and have consistent sales, even though they have no plan. But the bottom line is it looks like this, right? I won't pick on him because he's not on this call. He was on the last one. I've got a team member who happens to be my brother-in-law. And, he had a loan, 1 month this year, he closed 10 loans and he was super excited, patting himself on the back. And we were all high-fiving him. And then the next month he did 1 loan, right? That's what happens. He's so busy closing those loans because he didn't have a plan to be proactive in his lead generation that next month that he had his worst month he's had, in a couple of years. And that's frustrating. And this is what I'm trying to get you to avoid. And so because of the fact that people walk into the office without a plan, Darren Hardy would say that they're actually waiting for fires, right? And where are those fires? Those fires are in your email. Right? We're going to talk about prioritizing your email for a little bit here. I'm not going to go too into depth, but ultimately I tend to find that people do absolutely take other people's priorities and make them urgent when they're just important. So we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to Ideal Week. And of course, the Ideal Week is the solution. And, as I already said, we're going to talk about that later. And me, my whole idea is to work smarter, not harder. I like the whole idea of keeping it simple, right? Keep it simple. The last word there. And so I use this example a lot. I actually did a bunch of research trying to find a new updated story because some of you have seen me talk and I've taught this story now for 4 years maybe. But I think it's really relevant. And the best part about it is that when I was sitting at my desk in my office, I had a cool silver pen that looked like the one I'm about to talk about. But ultimately back in the 60s, some of you know the story, JFK, right? Great president. He basically said, we are going to the moon this decade. And he put it out there to NASA that they had to get to the moon. And as crazy as it sounded, NASA had a problem when they were trying to get to the moon. And that was they needed to create a pen that would write upside down, right side up, extreme heat, extreme hold, gravity, and no gravity. And so they hired this company, and this company created a pen that you can buy now on Amazon for like $5. But they created a pen that had this way of pushing the ink up in the pen that had never been done before. And it was awesome. And if we were live in the room when I teach this, I would say, how much that pen costs? And you guys would be like 100 grand, 5 grand. And then someone would say over $1 million. It was over $1 million when you calculate it to today's terms. And there's stories that say it was over 10 million, but either way, it's a freaking expensive pen, right? And it took a lot of time to figure it out, but it was one of the things that America wanted to make sure worked in space. And at that time, the reason JFK was doing this, because we were competing against these guys. That is Russian, and it says NASA or whatever they call it over there. But they put Sputnik and he circled around the globe before we did, and they were ahead of us in the space race. And they were just as antsy as we were to get to the moon. And they were doing just everything that they could do as America was. But guess what? They didn't have all that money to build a space pen. So what did they do? They used a pencil. And I point that out because it is really important to understand that we overthink things. And so as I mentioned earlier at the beginning, for those of you who weren't here, right, I took business planning in college as an undergrad, and it was really thick. I mean, we spent a lot of time doing that. I applied for, an SBA loan in my previous business when I owned a bike store, and it was really thick, my business plan I had to write. And I used what I learned in all my years of the entrepreneurship program at U of A. And ultimately, this is all about keeping it simple, right? KISS, keep it simple, like think pencil, not pen. And that's really what I've tried to do here. And so when we're working on the business plan, we're going to start with the past, right? Because, you who know Win by Noon and know my teaching, I always say you've got to reflect to learn, right? You got to look at what did I do, what worked, what didn't work in order for me to get where I'm trying to go. And so we're going to start with the past to try to figure out what it is I'm going to set my goals for the future. And so we're going to start with the results. Again, you hear me talk about activities and you hear me talk about results. Activities come first, but results is what we're after. Some of you may read a book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. They call it 4DX for short. There's 3 authors to it. One of them is Sean Covey, Stephen Covey's son. And it is really a great book that talks about this. And what they talk about is that you always set a goal with results for the end of the year. And they call it your WIG, your wildly important goal, right? And so we're going to start with those results, because success leaves clues. Now you'll notice this I did last week. And so you'll notice I had to use whiteout and change it to 2021. Now, if you go download the business plan, it's actually correct because it said 2022. The team made a mistake. I didn't catch it till literally right before the webinar. So I got my whiteout out, and my personal business plan that I'm using is this one. It has the whiteout out 2021. So we're gonna start in the top section here. And you're gonna see this is for all of us in sales. We got family served, which is number of units, and we have loan volume funded. And I would tell you this, like I like the family serve thing. I really do my best not to say how many deals do you want to do. No one wants to be a deal. They want to be a family. Nobody wants to be a file. They want to be a family. Nobody wants to be a transaction. They want to be a family. So I'm really specific about what I use on here. And so I like business and I like personal. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But ultimately, you're going to look at your last year. How many transactions did you close? How many families did you serve? And what was your dollar volume? Those of you who are in, some big state that sells, millions and millions of dollars worth of high dollar homes, you guys like volume funded because you look really good, not doing as many units as people like my team in Arizona who does 500 units a year, but they're a lot smaller. And so therefore, volume is important, but it's not the number that our team shoots for. But we look at both of those, right? So we're going to set goals based on what we have data for. So some of you might be brand new in the business, and maybe you will not have numbers, right? Maybe you only been in business for 6 months. Great. Then use your 6 months numbers and then translate it to 12 months, right? That's the kind of thing to do. But ultimately, you're set the goals based on the data that you have. And you just might have to do your best guess, right? It's easy for loan officers. You're going to look at your closed transactions because you should be able to get that from your company, right? Your company's tracking that. You're trying to go for that record board. You're also going to look at your pre-quals issued, your applications, and your leads. So we'll dig into that in just a minute because those are all the results, right? A lead is a result. A lead leads to an application. That application leads to a pre-qual, and that leads to a closed transaction and a family served. For real estate agents, you're going to look at same thing: closed transactions, units, and dollar volume, or whatever sales you're in. And you're also going to look at your listing appointments, buyer appointments, and leads, right? As a real estate agent, your goal is to get a lead, convert it to whatever their buyer or seller, and then get it to a closed transaction. And I think those are the key points. And you'll hear me talk a lot about conversion rates. I'm not going to spend time focusing on that now, but I would tell you personally, when I am coaching and when I was looking at this for myself as a producer, I was looking at my conversion rates as well, because the year I grew my business almost 45%. And broke through the $100 million mark for the first time, I was laser focused on my conversion rates. I converted at a higher rate because I was more focused. I converted at a higher rate because I actually made all the calls I said I was going to do because I did the ideal week. And therefore, I was able to increase my business in a flat market, which I think is not normal. And again, people ask, why do I set personal goals? Because I think relationships matter. I think everything else that you do in life matters. And so here we've got a couple of things going on. The front page is your goal for the year. And then we're going to break it down to quarterly. And then again, those of you who are super tactical will go monthly, weekly, daily. What do my numbers need to be? But, we're going to look at the big one. Now it's a little harder on some of these big 12-month goals to come up with other things. It's super easy to do family served in units. What else do I see on there for business? I see income on there a lot. Like people like, hey, I want to make 200 grand this year. Great. Put that on there if that's what's important to you. I see some people say, I want to have an assistant this year. I see some people who say, I want to get a new CRM this year. I mean, there's lots of things you can put in there on business. Personal, for me, it's typically days of vacation. Typically I have a weight like health goal, I just say live my health plan, which is ambiguous. We'll talk about that in a minute. But for me, it's a weight goal. 159 is my eating plan, and I'm super laser focused on that. And I'll dig into that a little bit. And then really just keep that part in mind. But in the end, if you just did the business goals, great. If that's all you want to do, do that. One of the things I'll tell you as you're setting that goal for next year, you're going to have a couple of choices, right? How hard do I want to work next year, right? I mean, I have people who I'm coaching through this, and they'll say, you know what, I worked so hard last year. If I can actually do the same volume I did this year, I closed 25 transactions. If I can close 26, just one more and work less, that's going to be a huge win for me. I got people say, you know what? I don't have too many people say I want to work less, like do less business. And I got other people are like, oh, I'm gonna just knock it out of the park. I'm gonna really hit this number big. And so when we talk about this life balance thing, there's really not, life balance in my mind. I think life balance is this whole idea of, you're going to be giving, you're giving and you're going as you go. It's just figuring out what's appropriate. So the next section is thoughts, adjustments, and changes for 2022. And transparently, this isn't going to be big enough space for some of you. Some of you are going to get a journal for this, but this is kind of where you're going to do what I would call a keep, improve, start, stop. And I'll send one out by tomorrow to you guys. I'll do a follow-up email to all of you, and it'll have a couple of these tools I'm going to talk about in it. And it will have, I'll put some tools in it, and I'll put in some links in it, just some other resources for you. But this is really you to reflect on the year. Like, really, how was it? And you can do this in bullet points, or you can write it out in a paragraph, or you could write it out in pages if you want. But it's really kind of looking at, how did I do? Like, are you proud of yourself? Did you feel like you actually lived up to what you intended to do from a business perspective for this year? And I talked about a life planning class yesterday. You can do this for life as well. I tend to do both of them independent of each other because I like to keep them independent of each other. But there's definitely a lot of overlap, especially since my wife is in the business. And so here you're going to really look at, what do I want to keep doing that's working well? What am I doing that's not working as well as it could that I want to improve? What is it that I'm not doing that I want to do that I want to start doing? And we'll talk about how to do that in a few minutes. And then what is it that I did this year that sucked that I need to stop doing? Like, I talked to a real estate agent yesterday, and he's like, yeah, hired the wrong assistant, and I did advertising that cost too much money. And I was super frustrated with throwing away that money. So that'll be on his stop list for going forward. And then we're going to look at next year. So like I said, so first here, if you remember when we did the one with the 2021, that was just your numbers from last year. And here's where we're talking about, what I just said of putting on what are your goals for this year. So the top part is really what did it look like last year? And the bottom part is what I want it to look like next year. And so I can tell you this, I sat down, I did this for my team, and I took all my team members, what is it that they wanted to close? And then that's what our team target number is. The team will close, 525 transactions this year. Transparently, the team wants to work about as hard as they did this last year. No one wants to work harder. No one necessarily wants to work less. But when a team in the mortgage business is doing 30% refinances to repeat next year, they want to do about 550 loans. So a little bit higher than what they did this year. Not much, 5%, but it's going to be in a total purchase market. And so again, I thought that was a good number. I let the team choose it. So if you're a team leader, that's certainly what I would encourage you to do, is don't pick your number for the team. I would want to do 600 loans, right? I would want to do more, but they choose that they're going to serve 550 families, and I'm going to support that. And so when we talk about goals, we want to talk about SMART with an S on it. You probably heard of SMART goals before, right? Specific, right? It's got to be like, hey, really specific. So I said, I can't say I want to be healthy next year. That's not specific. Why not? Because it's not measurable. So in my health plan, it says I want to weigh 159 pounds. It's specific. It says, this is what my morning routine is. This is what my evening routine is. This is what I eat every day. This is what I won't eat in a month. And I'm a super nerd. Like it says, I'll eat pizza once a month. Will I ever eat pizza twice a month? Probably. At Thanksgiving, we had 18 of us together, and we had pizza twice. Well, that was my twice for November. Luckily, I hadn't had it before. But I'm super specific about it because I want to live a long life. Achievable. This is one where, again, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth when I get to the S, the stretching part. But achievable means, if you did 25 transactions last year, don't say you're going to do 125 this year, unless you think that's achievable. I'm all about setting goals that are, I call it a split goal. I'll talk about that in a sec. Relevant, again, you want to be relevant to you. This is a silly one, but it's just part of this SMART thing that's been around forever. Of course, you're going to pick a goal that's relevant to you. It's not like I'm going to pick a goal of, going on tour as a rock star with Taylor Swift or anything next year. Time sensitive, again, by when. So we're setting this up for a year, and then you'll see in a minute, we're going to break it down to a quarter. Because again, if you don't say by when, so when I was a coaching client, when I was a coach, when someone says, hey, Todd, I'm going to get my new CRM going. I'm going to be awesome by when? And then, because again, you have to have that tactical time. That's going to be your bookend. You know where you are now, right? Current reality. And we got to figure out what to do to get there, right? That's the action steps that we're going to talk about building into our ideal week. And then this last part is stretching. So, for me, if my team picks 550, I'll probably pick a stretch goal for them of 600, right? So that's a stretch goal. Hey, let's push it. Let's see if we can't get there. So I always like that idea. Everyone's kind of got this different way they want a goal set. Some people are like, oh, okay, I did 50 last year. I'm gonna set my goal for 50 this year, but I know I'm gonna do 75. And when I blow through it, I'm gonna feel really good about myself. Great. If that's what makes you feel good, do it. Don't set it for 20 though, so you can blow through it in the first 3 months, right? You want to keep pushing until the end of the year. And then, push yourself, right? I mean, it's people get disappointed when they don't hit their actual goal, but I'm okay with if I don't hit my goal, if I set a goal that was a stretch. And I would push yourself to stretch a little bit. And then, as I said, next we're gonna go from annual to quarterly. We do this for 2 reasons. One, it's easier when you break it down, right? I mean, think about that. If you say you're gonna do 100 transactions next year, we know typically it's gonna be 25 per quarter. But it also forces you to meet with your accountability partner, right? So when you know what those different milestones are, it's going to give somebody the question to ask someone else. Again, precursor to what we talked about at the end. If someone tells you, hey, I'm going to do 60 transactions this year, we know that's 5 a month. And then you want to ask them how they're doing, because what you don't want to do is get to March and be like, oh, I've done 5 loans and I'm supposed to have done 15. Get to March and say I should have sold 3 houses, but I've only sold 1, right? You want to be looking at it each month in, month out. I look at it week in, week out. How am I doing? That's why Win by Noon has a total every week. It has reflection time every week. How did I do? I'm totaling it up. What did I say I was going to do? What was my goal? What did I actually do? So you can look at it. It's a reminder, right? Remember before I said kind of a poke in the side, right? It's a reminder to you to get on track. And then you have to determine what your commitment is. And again, I'll kind of talk about that at the ideal week. So then we're going to break down into this first quarter goals. And so what I would say about that is, when you break it down in goals, I personally, and maybe it's just because I live in Arizona where it's beautiful all year round, except for the summer when it's 125 degrees, I just divide mine by 4. Every quarter, if I'm going to do, if I'm going to do 100 transactions, I'm going to put 25 in each quarter. Some of you live in places that are seasonal, and some of you know, hey, I do, it snows. I only do 10% of my business in the first quarter. I do 40% in the second quarter. I do 30% in the third quarter, and I do 20% in the fourth quarter. Great. If you know the seasonality, good for you. Like you're a numbers nerd. I love you. And so if you know that seasonality, great. Then plan your year that way, right? I mean, that's that's really key. All right, I'm taking a minute. I'm looking at stuff. Someone's asking us to be recorded. It will be recorded, and I will put it up into our Facebook. All right. Someone asked me what the first stretch was because I went really fast. That is specific. The first S was specific. Sorry about that. I guess I should be paying better attention to my chat. I will, I promise. Okay, so these are going to be those goals. And again, this is where it's hard to go sometimes from the annual goals to the quarterly goals on the things that are less, that aren't numbers, right? So if your business goal is based on income, your third one, it's super easy to measure that, right? If your business goal for the year is to hire an assistant, which may mean that you have to be, sell 20 houses till you feel like you can afford an assistant or afford a transaction manager, again, that still may be on there. So you may have to look, is there a shorter goal I can do in order to hit that annual goal that I set? So if my goal is to get a new CRM, then I might say that my goal in the first quarter is to evaluate, pick the top 5 CRMs I want and schedule a meeting with all of those people in the first quarter. Again, it's specific, it's attainable, it's measurable, right? I got 5 meetings or I didn't, I learned what I needed to learn. And then remember, this is kind of where it gets harder. And this is the part where the people who aren't Win by Noon users, you can say, hey, I don't want to do this part. But remember, we're going to try to keep it simple because the ultimate goal is to figure out which activities and how many get us there. Someone's asking what a CRM, that's a great question. Customer relations management software. So it would be like a Salesforce or, MailChimp for some people. Some people use Outlook as their CRM, although it's not really a CRM, but it's just whatever computer program you would use to keep your database together in what your follow-ups are. So let me talk about 4DX for a second. In fact, I'm going to stop sharing, and this will kind of be helpful. So I'm going to give you the book summary of 4DX. That's a great book, 4 Disciplines of Execution. Again, it's if you just Google it, go to Amazon or wherever your favorite bookstore is, your local bookstore hopefully has it. And Sean Covey's one of the authors. This is Sean, S-C-A-N, Sean. But they talk about 4 things. They talk about this wildly important goal at the end of the year. And so the point of the book is that if we have this wildly important goal, this WIG, oops, there's my hand. We have this WIG, we don't really know if we're going to hit it until the end of the year, right? And those of you in sales, you probably knew end of October, early November, maybe not till even December, what is truly going to be my closing at, my closings at the end of the year. So my team now knows how many families we'll serve, plus or minus one or two. Could a transaction fall out between now and the end of the year? Possibly, right? I mean, there's just certain things that, that could happen. Maybe someone's doing a refinance and they just flew to Europe and they can't get the appraiser until January. Well, guess what? Then that's going to be a January loan, not a December loan. And if it was in the December numbers, but you could probably figure out what your numbers are for family served now. But that's that wildly important goal. And what they're going to tell you is that in March, you got to keep on track January, February, March, April, May, June, all those months to be on track. And what happens is I find, not looking at any of you in particular, but I find that what people do is they set the goal and then they never go back to their business plan and look at it. And then they might think mid-year, like, oh, how am I doing? And their goal was 50 and they're at 20. And so then the question is, in my mind is, okay, what is my mindset? Is my mindset when I've only done 20 and I'm technically 5 short at the midway point? Am I going to say, you know what, if I do 40, that's good enough, even though my goal was 50? That's up to you. You have to decide. I've lived all sides of this as a loan officer. Or you can say, that sucks. I got to actually do 30 so I can hit my goal of 50, which is what I hope you would say. Now, what I found is when I started doing quarterly business planning and I started reviewing it weekly and monthly, I didn't have to wait until the end of the year to figure out whether I was on track to close. And that's where the book 4 Disciplines of Execution starts. They say, what are your lead indicators? What are the activities you need to do that you can measure up front now in January, February, March to make sure that mid-year, I'm not surprised that I'm short of my goal, and that at the end of the year, I'm not short of my goal. So you have to know what are those indicators, and we know what they are in our businesses. You know what they are, but are you recording those activities? Are you watching all the other lead indicators to see where you go? And most of the time I find in sales, people only look at the result side, leads. They look at the meetings that are set, loan officers, leads to applications. I added in pre-quals. Most people look leads apps to close. If you don't get them pre-qualled, then they're not going to go shopping with you. And then you realtors, it's your appointments, right? It's how many appointments am I getting? And we also track escrows, like what went into escrow, so you can see what your fallout is, because ultimately you got to figure out what these lead indicators are, but you also have to know what are the activities to get you there. And again, this is one of the core tenets of Win by Noon is knowing, wouldn't it be great to know how many people I have to call, talk to, or meet with in order to get the lead? How many people have to call, talk to, or meet with in order to get a closed transaction? And the bottom line is this, is that when you don't know that number, then you get in every day without a plan and you're just guessing, right? So go back to where we started this conversation, is that the reason that people fail is because they don't understand what the actual target is. And the target isn't the results every day. It could be, right? I had a friend, he used to be the #1 producer in Arizona. I think now he's like semi-retired, but he literally would not leave his office till he had 3 loan applications in a day. And he was really pig-headed about it. He would get home late, and every once in a while he might leave early, but then the next day he would make sure that he got a 4th application if he only got 2 the day before. He was super pig-headed and focused on his numbers. And guess what? He was #1 for that reason. And then he went to this point where he had a clicker. He knew if he called 10 people proactively a day, and his phone's ringing anyway, ringing, and people want loans, because he was on the radio, but he would click the clicker. If he made 10 proactive calls a day, then he was typically going to get his 3 applications. He knew his numbers, and most people don't know what they have to do today in order to get to their goals at the end of the year. And so real quick to summarize 4DX, we have the WIG, the wildly important goal. We got to have our lead indicators. What is it we're going to measure now? And that's what I want to help you guys figure out. You might not know them today. You might not have been recording these activities to figure it out, but we can start today to figure it out for next year. So that's what we're going to do. And then in between, they say you have to have a couple of other things. One is you have to have what they call a cadence of accountability. You have to actually have meetings where you actually talk about it. So with my team actually has a call at 8:45 every morning where they give their numbers. Well, guess what? That's a cadence of accountability. My team used to do, when we were all in the office, pre-COVID, we would do a meeting every week with the whole team where people had their different goals. And then you had a group meeting about it where you talked about it. Hey, I was supposed to do this today. I'm like a loan processor would have to get their conditions reviewed in 24 hours. And so they had to report, okay, I had 10 loans and I got 9 of them reviewed within 24 hours. And then if they didn't review the other one in 24 hours, well, what happened? Why didn't that happen? And you do it with a group, right? Accountability partner, coach, whoever it is. So that way you can figure out, well, what can I do differently? How can I fix it so I'm not having those problems? Hey, I said I was going to make 50 lead calls and I didn't. Like, why did I fail on that? So You know what the indicators are, you have a meeting to talk about it, and you have a compelling scoreboard, right? So that's why those of you who are Win by Noon users got a scoreboard in your, with your 2022 Win by Noon planner. You've got a scoreboard so that you can actually keep track of those things. In fact, I'll put the scoreboard, I don't have it, but I'll find it and I'll make sure I email it to you guys who are on this call today. Or just email me, Todd@winbynoon.com, and I'll send you one. But ultimately, that scoreboard you can hang up because you really want to do it. And that's why the business plan is a living document. Now, one thing I forgot to mention about the business plan, the link that I'll send you or the link that you guys got, we change those every single quarter. So every quarter, you're supposed to be updating your plan. Download the new one, gets up about mid-quarter, and then start planning your next quarter. And then you're going to keep your annual planning going. So that's ultimately when, ironically, in hindsight, when you look at Win by Noon and the system I built, it actually lines right up with what the 4 disciplines of execution is. It's really designed so that when you get to the end of the year, you didn't miss this big goal. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. I was super passionate and wanted to talk about that. Okay, so we're going to talk about which activities and how many, right? Because ultimately, which activities and how many lead to the results that you just said you wanted to do as a goal for this year, right? Success leaves clues. And so it's really, do you know what activities you need to do every day in order to meet your goals? And the answer for most people I talk to is no. So if that's you, don't be upset about it. I can tell you that for people who are living Win by Noon, I don't want to say to its fullest, but at a very high level, because again, there's no living Win by Noon all the way for most people. It's got so many different things in there. It's designed for different people. Not everyone uses everything, but those who are using it from a numbers perspective absolutely will know what those numbers are. And I can tell you, I've seen it change, like just from a couple of my users who I've talked to. Like there was one loan officer user who in 2020, because refis were falling out of the sky, if they called 20 people, which typically resulted in them talking to 19 people in a day, they closed one transaction. They had one family served. That same person in first half of 2021, right? Refis were dropping. And it was harder to get a house under contract because of the limited supply for their buyers. That went to 29 calls and with 28 conversations to get a transaction closed. So go back to what I said earlier. If you're behind, are you gonna throw it in? So if that loan officer would have kept going, only focused on 20 calls a day, and then they would have actually realized that at the end of 2021 that they weren't going to hit their goal. But they were watching, because they measured it weekly, reviewed it weekly and monthly and quarterly, they realized real quick that the market was shifting. And in that market shift, they had to shift their activity to meet up to still hit their goals. Now, they could have chose to hang it up and go, oh, well, I'm just going to do less because I don't want to do more than my 20 calls. However, they didn't. In fact, they set their call target at 30 a day, which is a lot of proactive outbound calling. But they set at 30 a day to make sure that they hit their goals. And guess what? They're on track to hit their goal for 2021. And that is commitment. That's someone being intentional. And so actually, let me say one other thing. So when I heard a real estate trainer get up, he's actually an agent, I guess the team leader. I wouldn't necessarily call him a trainer, but he does a lot of training. He got up in front of a big room of agents and he said, do you know exactly what you need to do every day in order to meet your goals? And then not one person raised their hand. There's 50 big producers in the room. And that was a great setup because I spoke after him. So I was able to Todd idea a week and then change some lives. But he said, hey, I know. He went through and he rattled off, this is how many doors I have to knock to get a listing. This is how many past clients I have to call to get a listing. This is how many emails I need to send. And this is how many text messages. He knew his numbers. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to know your numbers as well, because ultimately it's going to help you connect the dots, because I want you to be intentional with the activities to choose what you prioritize. Sorry, I couldn't drink my tea today. It's cold tea now. It was hot tea. Again, so that word intentional, that's my personal word for 2022. You hear people pick a word for a year, and it was commitment for this year, and next year it's gonna be intentional. I'm gonna be super intentional with my focus. I'm gonna be super intentional with my energy. I'm gonna be super intentional with my conversations. But ultimately, you gotta choose what activities you're gonna prioritize. And so you've heard the saying before, the best day to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago, and the second best day is today. Right? You can't rewind what you didn't do. So let's not worry about that. So I want you all to start recording activities. So if you're a Win by Noon user, great, record it in your planner. If you're not a Win by Noon user, that's okay. Get a pad of paper and start recording your activities. There's no rocket science to it, but in the end, if you want to know how many calls you have to make in order to have a family served, then you're going to have to start doing the work. And it's hard, but it's not impossible. Why is it hard? It's hard because, you're not a nerd like I am. For me, I have my planner sitting next to me all the time, right? It's sitting next to me. When I was a producer, I threw it in my little backpack and I carried it with me wherever I go. If I went to lunch with a realtor, I carried it with me. And oftentimes if I went to dinner, I carried it with me, not because I would answer the phone during dinner, but it may be something that my wife said, hey, can you do this tomorrow? And again, my memory's not that good. I'm going to throw it in my planner. Because ultimately, if we start recording activities, we can determine the rest. And so that's why we have on here what your weekly results goals are going to look like. So let's talk about results for 1 second. You guys can all get these results. So this is loan officer results, leads, applications, pre-quals, new in process, closed, new partners, and any other 2 things that you want to look here. Right? This could be a new habit that you want to track, but we've got another spot for that. This could be videos that you want to put out on on mortgage strategies. It could be the number of whatever it is that you want to do that will help grow your business. And then we also have this for real estate agents, right? Buyers, sellers, qualified buyers, listings. Again, all things that you will be doing as a real estate agent. And you're going to be able to get this from your, if you're a loan officer, you're going to go back into your CRM. You should see leads in there, right? If you're using your CRM actively, you'll see your leads in there. Maybe you have to go back if you're Win by New user and look at the leads in your planner and just add them up, like go back for the whole year. Applications, again, you guys have that in your loan origination system. So worst case, you can at least figure out your applications to closed. But in the end, it doesn't necessarily matter if you get an application. If you get a lead and you can't convert them, then again, you want to see how's your conversion rate. If you get an application and you can't get it to a pre-qual, then again, they're probably not going to go out shopping. And so you'll find that the more laser focused you become on your conversion rates, then the easier it is to grow your business with less work. Real estate agents, kind of same things. You can look at your listings. You should have listing agreements. Your broker can help you with that. I've also got database ads in there. I want to really point that one out. I do have a lot of loan officers focusing on that right now who use HomeBot. And I can send you, I'll put the discount code for HomeBot in there if you're a realtor or a loan officer. And if you're not using it, it's worth checking out. And I'll put that in the email that I send out. But ultimately, again, you should be able to find these things. And if you can't, no big deal. Then just start recording the activities and the results today, right? The activity side, again, here is lead calls. And I'll go through this in a minute with regards to the ideal week. But the bottom line is this. The bottom line is that these are the activities that superstars do in order to get the results that they want. Now, you're doing these already. You're calling people. You're talking to people. You're meeting with people. Here I've got annual mortgage reviews and TCAs for loan officers. If you're not a mortgage coach user, a TCA is a mortgage coach total cost analysis. They go hand in hand with the annual mortgage reviews, and really you should be giving it to all your clients. Check out mortgagecoach.com if you haven't used it. But that's a game changer. But ultimately, these are other activities I see superstars do week in and week out, and what those activities are. And again, this might be where you put your social media stuff. Not how many hours I'm going to troll Instagram and Facebook, but actually how many hours might be proactive with regards to my business there. Same thing for real estate agents. Again, database ads I know is really huge for you. A lot of times I work with real estate teams, and the real estate teams don't do individual calls. So I would do dialed calls there, like when I'm dialing out, and then you'll see over towards the right, there's prospecting time. And prospecting time would be those of you who are working the dialer. So you say, hey, I'm going to dial for an hour this morning. A lot of the big teams that I know are still dialing 2 to 3 hours a day, every day, and with the dialer on. And that's how they're building their business, and they're committed to it. And nothing else gets in the way. They don't show houses during that time. So we'll talk about that during the ideal week. RE is real estate reviews, RE reviews. Again, we did the CMA a day challenge over in Win by Noon community. So there's some videos in there on that. I won't dig into it, but that's a game changer. If you want to grow your business, start doing that. As I said, activities matter because activities lead to results. And the other thing we have in here is habits of success. And this is really critical. Again, I said life is personal. So this is on time. How many hours are you scheduling to work on your business? For me, when I grow, I work a minimum of 4 hours of on time a week. When I had my coaches always hold me, we did these quarterly accountability challenges in my coaching group. And I always had 4 hours of on time as one of my commitments that I had to do. And it's just a habit I keep up. And guess what? When I get stagnant, it's because I'm not doing enough on time working on my business. Handwritten notes, social media posts, sleep. Again, sleep is super important. I'm a health nut if you haven't figured that out. Exercise, morning routine, evening routine, new habit. I'll tell you, these are things that I have written out. So, again, I already said it. My exercise is minimum of 3 days of, running or hiking a week, and 3 days of, strength training. My morning routine is super laid out, right? Meditation, some type of spiritual reading, some type of learning in the morning, stretching, exercise, off of my screens until, depends on the time of year, either 7 or 8 a.m., depending what's going on. Evening routine, no screens an hour before bed. I put on my nerdy amber glasses that block out the blue light, and just kind of my wind down and what that looks like. So remember, life is just more important than business. And that's why I focus on those things. I want you guys to live a long, healthy life and have great relationships. And we had space in the planner, and Adam, my right hand and Win by Noon, put in critical relations. So I was like, oh, whatever that, we'll see how that is. And people loved it. And this, I write in, I'm super specific, right? Remember that word, specificity. And I put in here, who do I really want to be intentional with? So, and I'm very, it's not like my team. I actually says my team, and it has the team members that this quarter that I'm really going to focus on making sure I connect with. It's got my family. It doesn't say family. It says, Tara, my wife. It's got, Lacey, Emmy, Giselle, my 3 kids, my parents, got my brothers. I put my friends in there. I try to, make sure that I'm reconnecting more with friends now. And so this is a part that not everyone uses, but those who use it actually really love it. All right. So one of our challenges is we have SOS. With my daughter, we call this sudden out. She self-diagnosed herself with sudden outburst syndrome, like, but that's not what this SOS is. This is shiny object syndrome. And this is what distracts most of us in sales from getting stuff done, as we see so many stuff. So that's why there's this quarter ahead idea list. And the quarter ahead idea list is designed for getting ideas out of your head and onto paper so that you don't forget them. It's designed to make you from jumping in. We've all done it, right? You hear someone say, oh, I use HomeBot, which I just mentioned. You're like, God, I got a HomeBot. So again, you're gonna write HomeBot on your idea list. And the reason we write this stuff on our idea list is because it gets out of our head. David Allen, who wrote Getting Things Done, is like, you have to have mind like water, he calls it. You got to have ideas out of your brain so that you're not bogged down by it. You sleep better, you focus better. And this really is designed to put a pin in it so that you don't just go out and buy something before you actually spend the time to think about it. And more importantly, to figure out what your implementation plan is going to be, right? So this is where you're going to put ideas. And then again, spoiler alert, each quarter, you're going to look at it and you're going to say, okay, what ideas did I not do? What ideas did I do? And you're going to move them to the next plan. And guess what? If you didn't do it, maybe it was a top priority, maybe it was an A priority, it was like 4th on the list, so you didn't get to it. Next quarter, maybe a B priority. Next quarter, might even make the list. And so I go through here and I prune this every quarter. So I'm leaving the good stuff on there. And if it's on there for like 3-4 quarters in a row, then I have to ask myself, is this still important to me or not? Like I used to have on my life plan, learn to play guitar. And you know what? It was on there for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, some crazy amount of time. And I never learned to play guitar. I tried in the middle and then we stopped. So I said, I'm going to take this off my plan. It no longer needs to be an idea. And it may come back at some point, but I took it off, for the time being. So you'll be looking for, different, different ideas and, kind of keep them dialed in there. So, kind of as you go through that, just be thinking about, what you are going to, dump in here to make sure that you just don't get, distracted. This just tells you how distracted I am. Someone just asked me, what book did I just mention? I know I mentioned 4 Disciplines of Execution before. And now I'm like, okay, what book did I just mention that I was in the flow and talking about? Now I totally forgot. So if anyone remembers what book I just mentioned, throw it in the chat so that we can tell Rachel what it was. All right, someone's asking them, what are the 4 Disciplines of Execution? Sure, I will. Let me talk about that at the end again, so I can keep us on track for those who are getting there, because I think that my 4 Disciplines of Execution rant I did got me a little off schedule, and I want to keep this boat on time, but I will go until I get it all done. Oh yeah, David Allen, Getting Things Done. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you. Yeah, so Getting Things Done is a classic. It's been out for 20 years. And he actually used to tour. He still may. I actually went and saw him twice live in person present on Getting Things Done. And he's just a guy who's all about getting ideas out of your mind and getting them on paper, and then how to be more efficient at things. And so I would definitely say that a little bit of what he taught me is what's in my teaching and my Win by Noon. And so what I'm looking for when I'm picking out a project or an idea is I want something that's going to reduce something that takes too long. Maybe that's increasing something to add more value. Man, I got 2 typos in here. I'm going to go really fast. Streamlining a system for process so that you guys don't see my typo. There was a typo 2 slides before. Or eliminate something, right? I'm always looking for something that's going to make me more efficient, to spend less time, get more business, do more things. And this eliminate, I mentioned the word pruning before. Elimination is so important to get rid of things that are clogging up your life. Right. So this is shiny object, look, there's a squirrel, right? We've all been there. And so that's why I put these 3 different quarterly project spots in here. And it sounds really dumb, but the number one reason people interview don't get a project done is because they don't know what the first steps are. So this is not an in-depth project planning tool, but it's, hey, what's my project I want to do? When do I want to do it by? And then what are the steps to get it started, and any notes? And again, for me, if I was doing a bigger project, I would actually create, maybe a notebook around it or a folder around it. And I would put this as my starting point. I think you shouldn't do more than 1, 2, or 3 projects. I think the less you have, the more likely you are to actually execute. For me, if I was in my office, down here below is a drawer that's full of half-finished projects, 90% finished projects, but I would get 90% done. I'd be like, oh, look, there's a new squirrel. I'm going to go chase that shiny object. And I wouldn't finish the one that I got done. Had I just gotten stuff done, because done is better than perfect, I would have been even more successful in business than I was fortunate enough to be. And so my encouragement for you is that I have a lot of open tabs on the browser, right? I run that way and I can do a lot, but most people can't. And so for me, I think I can have more open tabs than I can. And so I've got, one big project for Win by Noon, to, one big project for my team, one big project for my modern training stuff that I do. And so the whole idea is to make sure that you're keeping it, keep it tight and use that tool for that, right? None of us were going to be a loan officer or realtor when we grew up, right? I mean, that's just not how we were. But ultimately, you got into whatever business. So that same webinar or seminar that I was at, where the guy said, do you know your numbers of what you need to do every day in order to hit your goals? The guy before him looked at all the real estate agents, and he said, you got into the real estate business to set your own hours, and that is the exact reason you fail. And I was like, ouch. Well, actually, I thought I'm stealing that. And then I thought, ouch. Actually, I thought, ouch, I'm stealing that. And I thought, ouch, some more. But think about that, right? I said it right when we started this, right? 94% of people come in the office with no fail, with no plan. That's why 91% have inconsistent month-over-month business. Darren Hardy says, you show up at the office with no plan and you're looking for fires to put out. And this is the icing on the cake. Because you have no committed activities, that's why you're not hitting your calendar, right? And so think about it. You're like a dog chasing your tail. And I've been there too. So you need this committed schedule of activities. And that's why we put the ideal week on the back. Now, the ideal week is, it's not going to be 100% throughout the year because things happen, right? So my ideal week when I was a loan officer, if I pull out one of my original pre-Win by Noon versions of my Win by Noon planner, I pulled it out the first time I taught. I opened it up and I said, look, here's a page, and just happened to be the page where the bookmark was. And that Thursday, I didn't do my ideal week that day. I was on a field trip with my kids. But guess what? Because I had an ideal week, because I was intentional around my commitments that I made, because I set a standard for myself of what I was going to do week in and week out, I'm able to do that. And so on here, I want you guys to think about your ideal week. And so what this would look like would be, if those of you who get the launch edition, you can see there's a filled out version of it in there. I wasn't smart enough to have a launch edition sitting by me, but ultimately what it would be is proactive in the morning, reactive in the afternoon. It would be the Win by Noon activities I'm going to walk you through in the morning, and it would be reacting to everything else in the afternoon. It's going to be setting appointments. So for me, I wasn't going to have an appointment with somebody in the morning, client, realtor, unless it was super important. I was going to do that in the afternoon because I was going to get my most important priorities done. That's how I grew my business. If you own your week, you own your business and your life. And I truly believe that. And so I think you have to divide your life into 2 types of activities: daily disciplines and target day activities. And again, some of these things are not unique to me. There's other coaching programs who do it, but I believe you have to do it first things first, right? That's the whole Win by Noon thing. If you can get it done first, you're infinitely a little more likely to get it done early than you are even in the afternoon, even if you're an afternoon person, right? 20% of you are afternoon and evening people. But the bottom line is this: typically afternoon, evening, your body may be moving, your mind may be sharpest, but you're still reacting in the afternoon. You had time to be proactive in the morning and you didn't take advantage of it. And so the whole idea is to get you, right? Win by Noon, there's goals, and we're trying to get you from where you are on Earth to your goals of being here on Saturn or whatever planet that is. And so let's just talk about the daily disciplines. I don't care what business you're in. If you're in sales, every day you got to call leads. Every day, right? It's amazing how many times that someone says, oh yeah, I just did, my lead version's not that good. Every single day. And so if you're a real estate agent, you should be calling people in your sphere, right? We all know it. 33 touch, you got to call your database 4 times a year, all those things that you're taught, whoever your guru is that you follow in the real estate world. But real estate people need to call their sphere, check in with them, see how they're doing, so that when they move every 7 years, that they actually remember who you are and call you. And that in the meantime, you're checking, you're getting their referrals. If you're a loan officer, you're calling your loan applicants who haven't gotten a pre-qual issued. And again, that's the reason I measure it. I think it's really, really, really important. I find too many people do not take the time to figure out what I got to do to get the client to get their pre-qual letter out. Because again, if you don't get a pre-qual letter out, it was blindingly obvious to me when I started tracking this for my team. And when I realized that it was crazy that we got almost 90% of people who got a pre-qual close with us, but the percentage of people who didn't get from loan application to pre-qual wasn't there. And you would think, at least I thought, gosh, if someone took the 20 minutes to do a loan application, 20 minutes to do a loan consultation, or the hour or whatever it took, and they didn't actually get that stinking one other tax return or that one other document we needed to get the pre-qual issued, like that's a wasted opportunity. Were they not that committed? And I said, no, it's not on them. It's on me. It's on me to chase them down and get it done. So we're going to do those things every single day. So in my ideal week, that's in the morning, right? Is going to be the daily disciplines, lead calls, and then whichever other, category works for you. And then what do you do these other days of the week? It's kind of like spirit days for your kids, or if you're a youngster, you had spirit days. I wasn't lucky enough to have spirit days, but my kids had crazy hair day, pajama day, all those things. And we do these things to be more efficient and more consistent. And so let's talk about that for a second, right? We're more efficient because when you group things together, especially if you're using your CRM, if you group things together, you're more efficient. You actually get it done faster because you did it all at once. And so like if I'm making calls, I might, print out my call list based on my call date, my CRM, and I'm just going to be highlighting those and knocking them off as I go. You're going to be more consistent. Why are you going to be more consistent? Because if when I'm a loan officer and I tell my clients and my realtors, I'm going to call you every Tuesday with an update, guess what? I'm consistent because I look like a schmuck if I don't actually do it every Tuesday like I say I am. So it absolutely brings on consistency when you tell your partners, when you tell your clients that these are the things I do every week. Again, it's a commitment. It's a standard I set for myself, right? Interviewed Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs in the military, they have standards. These are the things we do week in, week out, day in, day out. We in sales, we get there, we get to make our own schedule. That's why we fail. So we have to do these things. We got to make ourselves do it. I would like to tell you the day I had that field trip on Thursday that I made all my realtor calls, which is what I think loan officers should be doing on Thursday. I'll tell you that in a minute. I hope I did. I hope I either made them that day in the afternoon when I got back to the office. I probably didn't. I probably reacted. If I was really great, I would have made them on that Wednesday. Who knows? But I promise you that if I was doing it today, I would absolutely make all those calls. So Monday, guess what? You're going to call leads. You're going to call your sphere if you're a realtor, if you're a loan officer, and get your loan applicants across the finish line to pre-qual. Then all we're doing on Mondays, we're going to review our week, right? We're going to review our last week. We're going to make sure we total up our numbers from the week before. How am I doing on my business plan? If I'm a real estate agent, I'm calling any leads I got over the weekend. I might be hopefully submitting some contracts, following up on any leads from an open house. If I'm a loan officer, I'm calling my realtors who had open houses to see if they have any leads. I'm calling my clients and my real estate agents who were out looking at touring properties over the weekend to see if they wrote an offer. I'm looking at my schedule for the week, making sure that everything that's scheduled meets what is going to help me meet my goals, right? Darren Hardy calls it a calibration meeting. He says, you got to look at your week. And if there's any meeting or any appointment that you have that's not going to move you towards your goals, you got to cancel it. Super hard, but you got to cancel it. I also would use it if there was an appointment that canceled a week before I needed to get rescheduled. But ultimately, this is a really fast day. It's to get everything going because you're clearing your email box from over the weekend and you're getting things going, right? We're doing these planning and committing so we can launch our week with success. Tuesday, guess what? We're calling leads. Yep, you're doing it again. You're calling your sphere because if you don't call them as a realtor, you're not going to get more business. If you don't follow up with them, they won't follow up with you. We're going to get our loan applications converted to pre-qual. So if I'm a real estate agent on Tuesday, I'm doing in escrow update calls, right? These are all your people who have a contract and are in escrow, your buyers and your sellers, and you're checking in with them. If you're a loan officer, you are doing loan status update calls. Again, super easy. Hey, it's Todd Bookspan calling you with your Tuesday update call. Your loan you're on track for an on-time close. Your loan is in underwriting. We're waiting for the appraisal. We should have a conditional loan approval by tomorrow. Your appraisal should be in by Thursday, and I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know how that goes in. Do you have any questions? No. Are you sure there's nothing? Sure there's nothing else I can do for you? No. Great. Click. Have a great day. I'll call you next week. Right. So really, what you're doing is you're calling the client, you're calling the buyer's agent, you're calling the seller's agent. If you are the buyer's or a seller's agent, you can call the other agent. You're calling the transaction coordinators. If you're a loan officer, you're not doing this. It's a big mistake because the transaction coordinators know what other realtors are having problems with their loan officer. And then maybe they would refer you if you become their friend because nobody calls them. And then if you are a real estate agent, you might have to call your loan officer to get an update first so that you can call the people. And then what you're going to say is really what's next. Like I said, they want to know what's next. And your job is to always let people know because we know the number one thing people want is communication. And if you communicate effectively and efficiently, and what's better, it also cuts down on phone calls, right? When someone knows that, doesn't mean they're not going to call you on Monday night and ask you if the appraisal's in, but it's less likely they will because they're going to know and remember that you're calling them on Tuesday. Wednesday, leads, sphere. Loan applications. Why do I have that in there every week, every day? Because I'm trying to remind you it's a daily discipline. You have to be intentional with your time. It's got to be a commitment. You're going to do these things first before we get distracted by the rest of our day. And so what are we going to do? We are going to protect our pipeline. What does this mean, Todd? What it means is your clients are going online and they're looking at properties on big websites. And when they click the button that says ask the listing agent a question, they actually think they're asking the listing agent a question. They don't realize their data just got sold. Remember that. Your data just got sold. You want to tell that to your clients. So again, if I'm a real estate agent, I'm telling my clients, hey, I know you're going to be looking online at properties. Remember, I'm sending you out a specific search that are the properties that match your criteria. The other properties you see online are probably not lot properties that meet your criteria. However, if you see something and have a question, call me. I'm your realtor. Don't hit that button, because when you do, they're selling your data. They'll hit the button to ask a realtor a question. They won't hit the button to let someone have their data. So your job is to tell them that. And if you're a loan officer, you should be telling that to the clients too, to help out your real estate agent. But we're protecting our pipeline because your clients have that internet addiction. So if you're a real estate agent, you're doing your buyer and seller calls to those who aren't in escrow yet. Those are your cash buyers, your pre-qualified buyers. And those are your sellers, your listings that you have, who you want to give them an update. Yep, maybe not. It's not really happening in this market, I know, but like, hey, you had 4 showings and here's what the 4 people said about your price, and your yellow cabinets they think are ugly or whatever that is. Loan officers, you're calling your pre-qualified clients. Again, they hit that button and they find a new realtor. Guess what? That realtor has a new loan officer, and guess who it's not? It's not you, right? You've got to make sure that you are the one that they're talking to. You've got to be really, really dialed in on that, because again, if you don't follow up with them, they're going to find somebody else. And what are you going to say? You're just going to give them rate and market updates. That's super boring. But if something big changes, like certainly every loan officer and real estate agent I know the last couple of weeks has been talking about the new limits, loan limits, right? Great, do that, right? If I'm calling yesterday, I'm talking about what the Fed said. If I'm a loan officer, that's going to be important, right? As a real estate agent, I'll give you a script on that in a minute, right? Any loan program updates, making holiday calls. I lectured my team today on this. I was on our 8:45 accountability call this morning. And I said, you got to make your holiday calls, right? You're asking people now, what are you doing for the holidays? And then you're going to write it down in your CRM. So if they tell you, oh, you know what, my kids flew home from, my middle daughter lives in New York, she's flying home. My oldest daughter lives in California, she's flying home, and we're just hanging out at the house. Great, I'm going to remember that. Why? Because when I make the call after the first of the year, I can say, hey, how was it with your daughter from New York and your daughter from California coming home? This is how we make connections. I said it earlier, relationships matter, like holiday calls. And then my favorite script is I'm just checking in, right? Just checking in. How you doing? Just checking in, right? If you don't, all else fails, just say that. Don't have call reluctance. Just call them, say, just checking in. How you doing, right? You're going to remind them who their lender is if you're a realtor. Now, lenders, I say this tongue in cheek, because if I'm in a room full of real estate agents, guess what? They all laugh, right? Who are they laughing at? Hopefully not you, hopefully just your coworkers and your other friends, but maybe it's you because you're not making those calls and they're saying the same thing. And guess what? Realtors, I say agent reminder to my loan officers, and they laugh too, because they say that real estate agents don't do as good of a job of following up, because oftentimes we would hear as loan officers, oh yeah, I'm not finding anything. Yeah, I'm really frustrated. There's no properties. I see more on that website and they're not giving me as many properties. It's because they don't know. They're not hearing from you. You're not hearing their frustration. And then we're telling them what's next, right? Again, they want to hear what's next. We're calling every 30 days those people who are buying, I'm sorry, say that differently. We're calling every week for those who are buying within 30 days. We're calling every other week if they're buying within 60 days, and we're calling them at least every 3 to 4 weeks, at least once a month if they're buying 60 days out. Again, someone who's not buying till next year, you better call them at least once a month, because I promise you, if not, they're going to find someone else in the meantime. When they come back to visit, if you're, live in an area that has winter visitors, or maybe you're in an area that has, skiers and people buy second homes there. They're going to come back next year and buy, and they're not going to buy with you if you're not keeping in touch with them. And you're going to call them until they buy or die. Thursday, leads, database, loan applications. What are we going to do? If I'm a real estate agent, guess what? Your clients have an internet addiction, right? They're getting a Zestimate online. They think that that's real. You don't. It's not. In fact, now with all the Zillow news, they used to have, I left this in here, a Zillow cash offer. They used to get this too and click that button, but they still are going to see that from other websites out there. Redfin, others have that on there. And that's still your risk, right? It's easier to sell a house not using you. Maybe not going to get as much money, we all know, but it's easier. We just know that. Don't challenge me on it. It's true. Well, you could make it just as good. So you're going to do these real estate reviews. Again, you're doing a comparative market analysis. I've got videos in the Win by Noon user mastermind group. You're welcome to join. You don't have to be a Win by Noon user. Just say, I was on your business planning webinar. I'll let you in. Again, Win by Noon user mastermind group on Facebook. And I have examples in there. I interviewed some great people on that, but you should be doing a real estate review because again, you need to be the expert. If you're in a room full of agents and I say, why did everyone go to the website? People say two reasons. They're searching for houses or they're searching for value. Well, if they're going to the website for value and not calling you, who do they think is the expert, the website or you? No comment. Loan officers, you're making your partner calls. And so you're going to call your partners. You're doing this to protect your weekend, right? The reason you're calling them on Thursday is to protect your weekend. You're going to tell them client updates. You just talked to their clients yesterday. You're going to tell them updates. If I'm today, the Thursday that I'm doing this, when the Fed meeting was yesterday, I'm telling them what the Fed said yesterday, right? I'm asking them what their weekend plans are. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this for two reasons. One is I'm trying to protect my weekend. I want to make sure if they're having an open house and they expect me to help them with flyers, that they don't call me Saturday morning. I'm going to get them to them beforehand. If they're planning an open house, then I'm going to put them on my list for Monday in my planner on my to-do list to call them and see if they have any leads for me from their open house. They also want to see if they're taking out clients. If they're taking out clients, great. Then I'm going to make sure I've got them pre-qualified so that they don't call me on Saturday night or Sunday night or Saturday morning and say, hey, I forgot the Smiths were flying in town. I need to pre-qualify to write an offer, right? This is how you protect your weekend. It's not rocket science, but it's a really great way to do it. It gives you 36 hours to chase down the Smith family to get their pre-qual. That's good. It also gives you a call list for Monday if you're taking out properties. It also tells you if they're not doing anything this weekend. If they're like, oh, you know what? My kids are flying in town. I'm taking them out to, the water park. Great. Going to the water park. Awesome. I'm writing in my CRM. So when I call them next week on Thursday to see how they're doing, I'm going to say, how was the water park with your kids? Again, relationships matter. We're going to make holiday calls. I already touched on those. You can give radar market updates, program updates, and then my other script, just checking in. You're going to call your best agents every week. You're going to call everyone else every other week. And if they're like on your kind of C list, like the ones who send you, one or two transactions a year, you should be calling them every 3 to 4 weeks. If you don't call them once a month, you're not going to get those 1 or 2 referrals a year. Friday, we made it to Friday, right? Calling leads, calling your sphere, calling your loan applicants. You're going to do your weekly wrap up, right? Really, who canceled on me? I need to reschedule. So it's kind of the opposite of the Monday, right? What do I need to make sure I get done so I can go into the weekend with the most peace, right? We're going to tie up those loose ends. If I'm a loan officer, because my clients are having internet addiction, I'm going to do annual mortgage reviews. I already said I think Mortgage Coach is the tool for that. And so again, think about that if you're a real estate agent. Really, Friday should just be your day. If you're going to be taking someone out on a tour, get the tour map done. If you are having an open house, get your open house stuff done. I mean, again, but get it done in the morning so you're not stressed out at the end of the day, right? It's all about doing these important things first every day in order to get across the finish line, because we've all woken up with a great list of to-dos, with great intentions of doing these things, but gotten to the end of the day and not gotten it done. What about the weekends? I want the weekends to be for you. I don't want the weekends to be your catch up. But again, a lot of you real estate agents, you work then, can you do these activities different days of the week? Heck yeah. If you have a different day of the week that you want to do these things, do it, but just make sure you do it. Maybe you're newer in business and you don't have enough stuff that it's going to take you, very long. You can knock out some of these things all in the same day. Great, do it. I'd rather spread it out and do a little bit each day to build the habit so that as I grow my business and I've got more and more to stack into that time, I blocked off from 8:30 to 11:30 and it rarely took me more than 3 hours. But when it did, that was a pretty freaking good thing. That meant I talked to a lot of people, I had a lot of clients that were pre-approved, had a lot of transactions going. That was awesome. And so weekends, I want you to kind of have for yourself. Okay, so upcoming webinars. I haven't scheduled any webinars yet for January. We'll probably get those scheduled next week, but start going to winbynoon.com/calendar to see what's going on. My commitment is to teach a lot more next year, and that's going to be the place where you can sign up for all of those opportunities. And then, so let's kind of sort of talk about, oops, that's really bizarre. I'm missing my, all right, well, we're going to leave that up for a second. I'm going to talk to you about the group piece. Apparently, I had two different PowerPoints I saved for the end, but it's missing the slides on what to do if you're teaching in a group. So let me just sit back and relax. It's 11:02 my time, so I'm already 2 minutes over, but I'm going to wrap this up in about 5 minutes for those of you who are late, and then we will re-talk about 4 disciplines of execution to answer the question that was asked earlier. Whew. All right, so that was a lot. Like I was rolling. You can see how passionate I am about that. I know if you commit, right? So again, we're going to set a standard. We're going to commit to that standard. And we're going to be really intentional with our focus and our energy. I know if you do this, that you're going to grow your business. I know that if you actually choose to teach it to others around you, that you're going to grow your business even more, right? Those who teach implement at a higher level. Those who have accountability implement at a higher level. And I know you have it. You wouldn't be sitting here watching it an hour and 2 minutes into this webinar if you really weren't committed to this. So I said this, if you're a team leader, if you are a branch manager, if you are just someone who wants to hold your real estate agents, or even another loan officer in your office, somebody accountable, then here's kind of what you need to do. Number one is teach them what I just taught them. And again, if you look at the one I did last week on YouTube, it literally had the tool. I just literally walked everyone through the tool piece by piece. So you're going to sit down with them and you're going to help them do their plan. What's a great way to do it? Bring your plan with you, right? You can use yours as an example, but you're going to help them figure it out. And don't let them off. They're like, well, I don't know what I closed for transactions. Say, okay, well, let's get out a pencil instead of a pen. And let's look at what you did. Well, what do you think you're going to close this year? What did you think you closed last year? Okay, I think I closed 30 transactions. Great. Let's start with 30. We'll do the top, right? And then you'll walk them through. You'll give them a minute. Okay, hey, real quick, why don't you do that? I'm going to work on something on my project list while you fill out the looking back at last year, right? Great. Okay, great. You did 30 transactions. Now let's talk about next year. Do you want to do 40 next year? Or you're not going to say that. What do you think you want to do next year? I say 35, then I might say, are you sure you don't want to do 40? And they say, no, 35 is fine. Great. 35 it is, right? Write that down. So you're going to walk them through it. So that's number one. Number one is to teach it. And you could absolutely get up in front of a room and teach it. You don't need a PowerPoint. I didn't teach it with a PowerPoint. I literally handed out the business planning tool and I walked them through the tool and I taught it live with the tool in their hands, standing me in front of the room. It's a lot easier. PowerPoint's a distraction. I prefer not to teach with it. You could already see when I, get ahead of myself at the beginning because it's just not, this is how I roll. So number one is that, number two is come up with a cadence of accountability. Like, what is our accountability going to be? And my suggestion would be this. If it was like a coworker or a good friend or my best real estate agent or the top agents in my office, or if I was leading a team, I'd be doing weekly accountability, at least a phone call, right? If I was doing it one-on-one to build rapport and build business with a potential real estate agent or to deepen my relationship with someone I work with, I would be scheduling a monthly in-person review. You can do the accountability over the phone weekly, but I would schedule a monthly in-person review. If maybe the person is not your top referral source, not your top referral partner, you can still do a weekly check-in, or maybe instead you do a bi-weekly check-in. And then maybe you just, check in once a month. I think it's really hard. I think if a month goes by and you don't check in with someone, they're more likely to have fallen off, right? My team even said when I tried to cancel our daily calls, I said, let's just do them 2 or 3 days a week. They're like, no, we want to do them every day. We want to be accountable, because the only way that they made sure they recorded their activities, that they totaled the numbers every day, is because they had to give them out on the call the next day. So literally my team this morning was like, I did 22 partner calls, 14 lead calls, 16 conversations, quality conversations. They walk through it all every day, but that's what holds them accountable. That's why they know their numbers better than some of you may. And then I might meet with the other people maybe once a quarter, and maybe you just meet with them once a year and you call them and check in with them quarterly. But you have to figure out with them what that cadence of accountability looks like, and have the conversation of how much of a jerk do you want me to be when you fall off and you stop doing it. And then you're going to have to be okay with the fact that they are going to, people are going to have bad days and bad weeks. And I just say, well, gosh, you know what? You didn't record your activities yesterday. Well, pick up your phone and look at who did you text with, who did you call, right? Your phone gives you the roadmap of what you did, and then go back and then recount it the best you can. If you're off by 1 or 2, lead calls or client calls, it's not the end of the world, but you're going to have to help them get back on and get that part going. And so really you're going to lay out that, hey, how hard do you want me to be on you? Because what you don't want to do is have someone not want to call you anymore and send you business because you're calling them. So you have to walk that fine line of relationship. But I can tell you this, if tough love works, and I think that those of you who take the time to help your team members get there will benefit from it. And then lastly is, create some celebrations, right? So like if you guys hit your goals at the end of the year, well, what are we going to do if we get to the end of the year and we hit our goals? What are we going to do? And it could be something you do together. More likely be something you do. Hey, I'm going to take my family on a trip to Disneyland if I hit my goal. I love seeing when I see people post something like that. If I can do 20 transactions in the first quarter, I'm going to take my team out for game night. Think about that. Make it kind of fun, and set that up and just keep following up, and then give grace when they don't do it perfectly. And it's just, such an opportunity to impact someone's life. And, if you guys have heard me say before, my personal why is to help you reach your potential, whatever you believe it to be. And it's a great thing when I didn't know that's what my real why was, but when I saw people reaching their potential, getting better by the time that I took to do this, it made all the difference in the world for me. 40X. We all have a wildly important goal at the end of the year. They call that through weight. We just created your goal. You're going to create in your planner. And then at the beginning of that is, what are the lead indicators to get there? So what does I have to do today in order to make sure at the end of the year I've gotten that? Then the next piece is your cadence of accountability. I just talked about that. Have an accountability meeting. How often are we going to do it to sharpen each other, to get feedback? Because even the best of the best need to have accountability and feedback. And so you have to have that, that cadence of accountability to make sure you're doing it, because you can't hold yourself accountable. Your friend can't hold themselves accountable. You can hold each other accountable. So having a meeting that's scheduled where you have this cadence of accountability to make sure you're all doing is great. And then the third one is a compelling scoreboard. Hello, we got a scoreboard right here. So again, keep track of it. Make sure you've got your stuff going on. And one thing that I should mention too is the law of diminishing intent. And I talked about it yesterday when I taught life planning. And I should have talked about it before, since a bunch of people jumped off just now because I went back into review mode. But law of diminishing intent says this: is the further you get from now, right, from 11:09 Mountain Time, the further you get away from now, the less likely you are to implement this. So what I would be thinking about is, when on my calendar am I going to write these things down? When am I going to actually get these things done in order for, in order to make sure that I don't get into 2022 without my plan? And so my thought for you, and it's funny, I have a thought, so I got to open up my planner, but it's just something I had said, earlier that I want to make sure I do some teaching around. But I would put in your calendar now. It was fun after the life planning call. I got a lot of emails from people telling me when they were going to work on their life plan. So that's, I think that's really cool. So I'm just writing down what I said about setting standards, committing to your standards, and then being intentional with committing to time. All right, so I got that done. All right, so I appreciate the kind words that I'm getting in the chat. You guys are awesome. So go to the Win by Noon calendar. That's where you can learn about upcoming webinars. Again, there's none other now, right? But I will be scheduling them. I'm going to do a better job of trying to put them way out in the future. By way out, that probably will be like a month. But ultimately, make sure that I get more in there, and we'll continue to keep you guys posted on it. I'm super grateful that you took the time, but really, the person that you should thank is yourself. You're taking a step and having a better 2022 by taking the time to figure out how to best plan to make sure that you actually are most likely on track, will be on track to hit your wildly important goal in 2022. If I can be of help, let me know. I appreciate you much, and look forward to, if I don't see you on the screen again this year, I look forward to seeing you on the screen early next year.